Greetings, fellow Earthlings. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of And Another Thing with Dave. I want to thank all of our listeners from all over the world. Please do subscribe and share if you're not already. All right, let's get into it. Hello, welcome to another episode of And Another Thing with Dave, featuring Tony Schultz, my dear friend, Tony Schultz. I've known this motherfucker since I was 13 years old. And guess what? We're still friends. That's crazy. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna chop it up. What are we talking about, Tony? What are we talking about? Can you break this down for the people?
Well, the first thing that's on my mind, Dave, is the insurrection and the fallout from it, and where we're headed post 1/6, and of course that segues right into voting rights and what's happening with these Republican legislatures all over the country. And basically, their whole theme is, how can we make it harder for people to vote, particularly, Dave, people that we don't think will vote for us. And I think we know who those people are.
Well, and you bring up an amazing point right there, Tony. So I think the Republican strategy is, let's get as few people to vote as possible, right? I don't know what the Democratic strategy is, because they don't have much to sell us on. I mean, the stimulus bill, but it hasn't passed yet, right? So I'm very, me, Tony, I'm very skeptical. I am not a two-party guy. I am not a Biden fan. Definitely not a Trump fan. Definitely not a Biden fan. I'm a third-party guy. I advocate for the People's Party, www.peoplesparty.org. I think this is the only hope. But what we're going to talk about right here is the conundrum that we've been placed in by what I like to call the lamestream media, right? Because they narrow the conversation, wouldn't you say, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends who you're watching, Dave. But there's so many outlets that seem to be either right or either left, and we have what I would call a lot of cheerleaders. But what we also have going on right now, Dave, is just people and some of these outlets that are out of their freaking minds. And what I mean by that is, when you go back and look at this January 6th, the insurrection day, how many of these different individuals and some of these news outlets, particularly Fox News, are acting as if January 6th was really not a big deal, and the way Republicans voted on whether or not we should investigate the matter, and they voted no. Like, no, we don't need an investigation on that. Dave, you can say what you want about Democrats, but the Republicans are not dealing in reality. They're clearly not dealing in reality.
Well, I would go so far as to say both parties have been swept up by the corporate money. I mean, let's just call it what it is, right? Citizens United. Corporations can give an unlimited amount to a political party. So that's bribery. That's corruption at the worst level, at the highest extent imaginable, right? I mean, so what we have, Tony, and I kind of agree with you, but I don't want to give the Democratic Party any credence at all, because I'm 53, and for my entire life, after Jimmy Carter, the Democratic Party has done nothing but fuck me. Since Clinton, shall we say, the Democratic Party has done nothing but fuck the working class person and say that they're representing the working class person, but they haven't put any legislation forth to help those people, right? All they've done is say, oh, Republicans evil. Ooh, Republicans evil. But what do you offer? What do you offer as the Democratic Party, right? And now it's like, well, what do they offer? I don't know.
Well, lately, Dave, they're offering HR1 and the infrastructure bill, and they did get some bipartisan
What's
support.
HR1? What's HR1?
part of it is an infrastructure bill, Dave, and another part of HR1, Dave, is dark money and limits to how much people can put into campaigns, and it would limit money that, say, a billionaire could put into a particular campaign, Dave, and they can't do it anonymously. You
Okay,
just
so
can't.
this is something that I think everybody should be for, right? Because if you're for a quote unquote, you know, democratic republic where the people actually have a say, then this is crucial, right? I mean, who would vote against this? Who would be against this, Tony?
Republicans.
Well,
They've
come
already
on,
said. They've
expand
already
upon
said.
that. Expand upon
Well,
that.
well,
Come on.
they've
What?
already said. Mitch McConnell has already said, Dave, these kind of things are dead in the water. Another part
Right.
of HR1 is how are we going to pay for some of these infrastructure things and that we want to do? And the Biden administration has gone to the left on this, Dave. They've become more progressive, and I'm really surprised to hear that that's happened. Um,
I am
and
too. Now,
if you
let me
make
check you
less,
real quick.
if you make
Let me.
over $400,000, if you make less than $400,000 a year, your taxes would not go up. Over that amount, the taxes would go up. There would be a wealth tax added to this, and Mitch McConnell said there is no way they're going for they want there is no way they're going to vote for anything that gets rid of the Trump tax cuts.
Okay, so right out the door, right out the gates. That's ridiculous, right? That's ridiculous. Mitch McConnell is digging his heels in. I think Mitch McConnell should be accused of treason because he has dug his heels in and inhibited the government from functioning. Now, isn't wouldn't that be treason? You are personally throwing a monkey wrench in the machinery of government and prohibiting anything from happening or going forward. I think that's treason. That's that's he's doing the absolute opposite of what he was put in place to do. He's put in place to pass legislation, not to be a loggerhead, right?
You would think, but right now, Dave, Republican legislators across the country, Dave, are using democracy to suffocate democracy. That's what they're doing. They're making it harder for people to vote. You heard,
Well,
David, about the Georgia
step
law.
back. Step back. How do you mean they're using because it's not democracy. They're using our system to subvert democracy, right?
Well, but they're in houses of the legislatures, Dave, across the country, voting on this and going, oh, we have a majority here, say in Kentucky, say in Georgia, say in Arizona, where they're doing those scam audits. And they're saying,
Mississippi,
you
maybe.
know what? We're going to vote and we're going to say, that's souls to the polls where black churchgoers vote on Sundays, Dave, right? You know what? We're going to limit that. Nah, you can't go that early. We're going to cut that. And those mail-in drop boxes, Dave, right? We're just going to say every place has to have an equal amount, even though some places, are very rural and don't have as nearly as many people, and some places have a whole bunch of people. So let's
So what
limit
you're
the
saying,
number of those.
let me follow what you're saying. So you're saying by we have to have an equal amount. They're not saying that Okanoke, uh, Arkansas, has to have the same amount as New Jersey. We're saying that New Jersey can lower their amount because Okanoke, wherever, doesn't have that many.
What they're saying, Dave, is I don't care if you got a ton of people and you need way more, and you got an area of land that's scattered, vast area. You know what? That place, we don't have to have nearly as many of them. So it's just harder for some people to get
Now,
one, to
Tony,
go find one.
can we take just two steps back on we got two messages already, so I want to get to these people right away. Thank you so much, listeners. Benny Boom Boom, what's going on? Money Penny. As a matter of fact, I want to play these messages right away because these people are, I'm huge fans of both of these people, so I want to hear their comments. I'm going to play them right now, Tone. Professor Money Penny.
Oh my God. So the summary of today's show is how to cause corruptive political electoral behavior, how to stop the idiots voting, but don't vote for us. Love it. Do you know, I did electoral behavior at university as my main study and my main paper. And I don't remember that bit. I do not remember that bit of, keep the idiots out. But it's a good one. I'll think about it. Anyway, I'm not an expert on US politics, but I'd like to know what happened to the Fauci emails. Suddenly, everybody had no interest in them. Nothing came from it that I'm aware of that is particularly significant other than confession to paying lots of money for gain of function research in China. Is that it? Is that all that's happening? Very, very strange. And also, is Biden an alien? And is there any more alien news coming out of the White House? Thank you.
So, Tony, I got to give you a little backstory. So, Professor Moneypenny is a brilliant professor from the UK, as you could probably tell by the voice. She's also suffering from what's called long-term COVID. She's had COVID for about a year and a half now, and her body's fucking fighting her. Right? She is fighting her body. It's not good. It's not good. It's horrible what she's going through right now. It's horrible. She's posted pictures. I've known this woman for about a year now, Tony, and it's appalling. But what I want to come back to is what Fauci emails, Tony. This is like Epstein. It just went under the rug. Like all of a sudden we got these Fauci emails, and he's basically it was proving that he was lying to the public and saying something to the public, and then he would say it the opposite to his peers, right? So basically, like Hillary Clinton, when she was speaking to Wall Street, right, would do the opposite, right? Same as Hillary. So we've seen this model before, but what do we do? What do you think? I want your 2 cents, Tony. How do you compare this to Epstein and to the Hillary email leaks?
Dave, I just don't know enough about this. All I can say is, if this guy's completely contradicting himself and or just plain lying, get some investigative journalists on this and get it, and let's get it out there because, hey, this guy's had a lot of influence for quite a long time on one of these unbelievably important periods, health-wise in America in 100 years. And if he's been misleading the public, Dave, it sounds like he may be involved in some of this. Has to be criminal, isn't it? If he's been telling us the wrong thing and making more people sick, I mean, I'm all about accountability on these kind of things, but other than that, I don't really have a lot of details of what his emails were all about.
What the email said exactly. Yeah. But well, for the to summarize, he basically contradicted himself. And as you said, he should be prosecuted for what has been revealed because at one point he said he told people that, oh, no, you don't need masks. And then he came back and he said, well, the reason I said that is because I wanted health workers to be able to get masks. So I didn't want the public to buy them all up. Really? Really? So you're going to lie to us? Why don't you just say health workers get the first priority?
Well, but doesn't the PED thing come into play there? Where what's that acronym stand for, Dave? When the government is going to okay, we can go to companies and say to manufacturing companies and say, whatever you're manufacturing
do this now.
You must do this now. I forgot what the acronym is for that.
I don't either. I can't remember it either, but it's a war act, and that's what they implemented during World War II to convert all the car companies to making bombs and bullets, right?
Right. So Dr. Fauci, when it comes to that, there's no reason to say that because he has to be like, okay, guys, we have to start producing more of this to get to our health workers first.
Right. And now and now I don't want to go too deep into the Fauci thing unless listeners lead us there, then I'll, no problem. I'll go there. I want to go wherever the people want to talk about. But my synopsis of what I've learned about the Fauci thing, and I've I've been digging deep, is that he was given through the NIH, through a subsidiary of the NIH, National Institute of Health. They formed an offshoot so it couldn't be tied back to the NIH. They gave him $3.9 million. He went to Wuhan, China, to the Institute of Virology, gave them this money, and said, we want to work on gain of function research. Now, you add all that up, Tony, and then you got this worldwide pandemic that started at the doorstep of the Wuhan lab in China. It's a little more than suspicious, wouldn't you say?
I would, and I just heard him say, talking about Fauci, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now, but he did say that, well, it could have started in a lab. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh,
I thought they were
and it
saying
could
it jumped from animal to human in
well,
nature.
and do you remember in the beginning, Tony? Like if you questioned the thing, it was like 9/11, like you were questioning the official story of 9/11, like, oh, you're a terrorist. Do you remember that? The climate?
Mhm. Yeah, yes, I do.
Because you know me, I am a truth seeker, and I've been on the front line of this. I'm not saying I know what's happening, but saying, whoa, people, here is something to look at, right? Something's not right here. It doesn't add up. That's all I've been saying. Never tried to say I know what's going on. But
Okay.
I have, it's like, people have written me off. But this woman, Professor Moneypenny, we got another message from her. I wanna play right here. Like I said, professor in the UK, long-term COVID sufferer, hardcore investigator, and she's coming up with similar factoids. So when different people come up with the same synopsis, what do, right? Like, huh, 4 different people investigated something. They're telling me something similar. Well, there might be something to that, right? Might be.
Well, it certainly gives it more credibility. Doesn't make it true or false. It just, well, if these people are saying it too, and these people are saying it, maybe I should look at it a little more.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's all I'm saying, Tony. I'm not trying to tell anybody that I know and you need to listen to me. I'm not, that's the last thing I'm saying. All I'm doing is posing questions. Like, I'm not satisfied in this regard over here. Let's look deeper. I'm not satisfied over here. Let's look deeper. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's play our next message from Professor Moneypenny.
Oh, and before I forget, with my COVID brain, so I was in another chat in another room in another world in another platform talking about John McAfee, amazing all the different conspiracy theories, whether he's actually faked his death. But bottom line, Hillary Clinton, what was she doing with him with a load of cocaine when she was asking him to eat her bum? And why is nobody publishing it? I mean, it's outrageous.
Well,
What?
let me
What?
but
Cocaine and
yeah.
eating ass? I don't. What was the connection there?
Yeah, I haven't heard this one yet, so this is news to me. However, let's just rewind a little bit. That might sound sensational, right? But let's review. Bill Clinton was the governor of Mena, Arkansas. Was the governor of Arkansas. Mena, Arkansas, is where George Bush flew plane loads of cocaine into during the Iran-Contra scandal. Mena, Arkansas was apparently the most remote airstrip in the entire country. Now, Bill Clinton, after doing that, after helping George Bush with his cocaine business and the CIA with their cocaine business, helping them, subterfuge the entire Congress and accomplish their goals, even though Congress said hell no, then Bill Clinton, governor of the poorest state in the country, became president. How does that happen? What did he do in Arkansas that merited him to rise to the national stage?
Well, he was like what? He served what 2 separate terms as governor of Arkansas, and he
And
was
had
clearly
many lawsuits against him. There was the Rose law firm scandal. There was the Whitewater scandal. His governorship was riddled with scandal. And it's also said in a documentary that he consolidated power to the executive branch of the state government as nobody had done before.
Huh.
Gangster.
Well, I mean, you survive scandals, and sometimes you don't survive scandals, Dave. And you come up with the proof, and people go to jail, or you don't. I mean,
You know what I like?
Nixon as vice president survived the slush fund scandal with the checkers speech. If anybody remembers that, and they really couldn't prove it, and he made a speech, and everybody kind of supported him, and he stayed on the ticket. You survive some of them, some of you don't.
Break that down for us, Tony, for the people that haven't heard it.
When he was vice president, he set up some type of slush fund. Exactly what it was for, I don't remember. But Eisenhower, even though I don't think he wasn't convicted of anything, but it was just a bad look. Eisenhower was thinking about dropping him from the ticket going into the next election. He came out and he made what is known as the checkers speech. He told about his finances, and he didn't do anything wrong, and he was sent a gift. I guess they were saying that people were sending him money, illegal contributions, and he said some Texas businessman sent him a Cocker Spaniel dog in a crate, and his kids love the dog, and despite what they say about it, we're going to keep him. And it worked.
Alrighty then. So, would you call that the way to sidestep a scandal?
Well, it's good for PR, but also too, David. Again, he wasn't actually convicted of anything, is my understanding. It's not like where Watergate, where they had a smoking gun, and had he not resigned, chances are he was not only was he impeached, but he would have been removed from office. And many Republicans, went to him and said, "You don't have our support anymore. You're done.
You're done. Cross the line.
You crossed the line. So forget it."
Do we not have something going on that right now? Just reel me this. I'm riffing on this, Tony. This is just I'm going off of a thought, of a gut feeling. But humor me. Do we not, have the same thing happening with both parties right now? Where they're playing where the Democratic Party is playing like, oh, you can't, don't talk about Hillary, don't talk bad about Biden because we got to beat Trump. But they're not saying what they're going to do for you. And then Trump is just like, oh, well, anybody but that guy, but we don't have a platform.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's probably a lot of shady dealings anyway, Dave, but a lot of what we think is shady just because of campaign finance laws, Dave, is actually legal. Like you said, it's like legal bribery.
Well, Tony, but let me check you right there. Being legal doesn't mean it's right?
No, of course not. But you can't charge somebody for doing something legally.
Totally, but we can.
You can't make it a crime if it's actually legal. You got to go change the law.
Right, but I want us to both agree right here, right now, that the powers in place have made laws that favor them.
Clearly.
So there we go.
Well, that's why
I love you, buddy.
David, we've been talking about campaign finance reform. How long has this kind of been my pet topic?
Tony, we've been talking about this for 20 years, bro.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be, because it was definitely during the Clinton administration when we were talking about it. And
20 years.
I want people to read a book by a wonderful writer, Jane Mayer. It's called Dark Money, and how some of this stuff got started. And it's not just about Republican corruption. It's
No,
this runs on both sides.
for
But a
sure.
big part of it was the denial of
Great book.
climate change, Dave. Denial of
Great
climate
book.
change. Republicans used to actually believe in the science. George H.W. Bush believed in the science. Then the big money started coming from Koch brothers and such, Dave, the oil producers, oil and gas producers. And they said, we're going to attack this headlong, and we're just going to, produce our own scientists that say, no, it's not really happening. And that's where we are with that. And that's why dark money is so dangerous.
Thank you. Oil, gas, and coal. Oil, gas, and coal. And now, come on, the biggest industries in the world. Now, talk about unlimited budget, right? What is Mobil Oil or Exxon? What's their marketing budget, right? Are you kidding
Oh,
me?
God.
And get this, your marketing budget, Tony, it's a write-off. Do you know that?
Oh, well, don't get me started on the taxes. Did anybody see with the article from Politico about 3 weeks ago? Just confirming all the stuff that we've been saying all these years, Dave, that major corporations and the richest among us don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
Some of them
Yep.
no federal income tax. They just didn't pay federal
Zero.
income tax.
Zero.
Got a rebate from the government.
Zero, Tony. Zero, zero. Like corporations making billions and people making billions paid zero because why? Because fuck you. Job creator? No, fuck you. Pay taxes. We need our infrastructure because the infrastructure is what allowed you to form a successful corporation. We have wonderful highways, bridges, freeways, airports, right?
Yeah.
Without
How about
those, what do you got as a corporate as Amazon? Without that infrastructure, what do you got?
you got nothing?
Thank you.
And you
So
want to keep up with China and Russia and all these kind of things as we move into the future. Well, you got to figure out how to pay for this stuff. We got what $32 trillion worth of debt that we're paying interest on. Probably need to pay that down at some point.
well, I wouldn't even
Just
trip
saying.
on the I don't trip on the debt, right? Because debt is like a credit card, right? Like you just as long as your income is higher than your debt, you're good. Just keep it rolling.
But
But
as soon as that turns in any little bit, and interest rates have to go up, you're going to see a major decline in the in economic growth, and that could lead
well,
to even more inflation than we already have.
I
And
agree
inflation's
with you.
bad.
I agree with you, but I think that hints to a larger discussion, which could be a whole nother podcast, which is the Federal Reserve, right? The Federal Reserve is a private, for profit corporation run by the biggest banks in the world, and they decide what our interest rate is, what the inflation rate is, and at what percent they're going to loan the US government money. What percent of interest that is. So why the fuck does the US government have to borrow money from the Federal Reserve? Why can't we just print our own money? Why is the Treasury not printing money?
I don't know.
Do you know why?
No.
Because in 1913 there was a meeting. It was a private meeting and it was on an island and it was attended by the 7 biggest bankers in the world, and they formed a cabal, Tony, right? A cabal, let's just call it what it is. It's what do we call drug dealers? What do we call the big drug dealers? What's that word?
God, now.
Cartel.
Oh, okay.
So it's a cartel. It's a banking cartel. Let's call it what it is. These are the biggest bankers in the world that got together on, get this, Tony, Jekyll Island.
Ooh, scary name.
that's rich, right? Off the coast of Georgia. So a private island owned by one of these asshole bankers, they conspired to create the Federal Reserve so that they could control the currency and profit off of every dollar printed. These are the bankers. And we let this happen. Now, anybody that has gone against the Federal Reserve, Tony, Andrew Jackson, John F. Kennedy, they haven't fared too well. They're dead.
They're dead. I've never heard that before.
They got shot. And not just dead, they got shot in the fucking head. Right? Like, big message. Don't fuck with us. Right? Let's play our next message.
Sorry, I just don't do politics, period. That's one thing I do not get involved with, this conversation about politics, but it is interesting. Anyway, not much to say except I don't do politics, period.
Well,
Not much of
that's
a message.
hilarious.
Not much of a message there.
Why on earth are you chiming into a political podcast saying,
Just to tell us you're
hey,
not into
I don't do
politics.
politics? That's funny. That's when you just, like, you know, change the channel on the TV and, you know. Anyway. People are strange when you're a stranger. Women seem ugly when you're alone. Or wicked. Right? So talk to me, Tony. Talk to me. Talk to
I'm
me
not sure how the
about.
lyrics go there.
Yeah. So women seem wicked when you're not wanted. Faces in the. Yeah, I forgot the rest. Anyway. But coming back to reality, our current situation, the current political paradigm, Tony, like, has there ever been a better time to jump out of the two-party system? Question to you.
Yeah, I don't know that there's the political will to do it, and I just don't see how we're going to be able to get enough people behind a third party to make a third party viable. It's just these two parties.
Okay.
Now, again, maybe Dave, if we pass some of these laws, these things to get big money out of politics, maybe that would help. I mean, that
Right.
they have a stranglehold there. I don't know how you get around it.
And then we also pass legislation that does what is it? Proportional representation, right? So if you win 3% of the vote, you get 3% of.
Right. Instead of a winner take all system, yeah.
Right, because that's lame. Nobody in the world, and once again, nobody in the fucking world does it the way we're doing it. But we think we're the shit. Like, how the fuck, how is that? We're the new kids on the block as far as a country goes. Would you not think we would look around and see what systems work, what don't? But so that, to me, is the key indication that we have been taken over by the banker class, by the donor class, right? The donors that donate to both political parties, right?
Yeah.
The Koch brothers donate to both political parties. So they don't lose. The Koch brothers get what they want no matter who wins, right?
They do.
So that is the problem. Do you not agree?
Oh, well, you know where I stand on that, Dave. I mean, I'm all for public financing of elections. I'm for limiting the amount of money that goes into campaigns. Dramatically limiting it. You know, much smaller contributions, and the whole concept of corporations as people, I think, should be done away with. I mean, there's been legislation in the last many years that have just made this situation even worse when it's already been bad for a long time. You know?
Well, can we talk about corporations as people?
Sure.
Let's break that down for a minute, just for a minute, right? Just because this one fires me up, right? So I am told to believe that name a corporation for me. Name like the most evil corporation you can think of.
Exxon.
Exxon. Okay, so I am told to think that Exxon is my neighbor and they're a good citizen and they care about their community and they're going to do the best thing they can. Tony, they're your neighbor. But that's not the case, Tony. Where is Exxon's headquarters? We don't even know, do we? I don't know.
Don't know that.
I would imagine it's either in New York or Texas, like the stock exchange center or the oil center, right? One of the two. But that's a guess. And I'm saying I'm ignorant right now, so don't quote me on this. I have no idea. But I'm brain farting right now, and it blows. And I'm going on a train, right? So I'm following a vein. I'm following a thought process right here. So follow me on this. Follow me through this vein, right? Like I'm mining right here. Follow me. It blows my mind that we allow this type of capitalism that destroys 80% while 20% get rich.
Pretty sad.
Can you expand upon that?
Well, nothing that I haven't already said, Dave. You know, when the people that make the laws to benefit themselves, you know, everybody else gets left behind. And like you were saying, how they keep us fighting amongst ourselves, you know, instead of looking up. You know, we got our country that, you know, punches down. Let's worry about, you know, immigrants, and let's worry about groups that have no actual, you know, institutional power, and let's blame them for stuff. Let's be angry at them.
Right. I love what you said. Punching down. Thank you for bringing that term up because I'm not sure if a lot of people are familiar with that term. And it's kind of become a catchphrase in the last, I don't know, what would you say, 5 years?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. So somewhere in there, punching down, right? So what this is, and I think, well, let me as I like to do, Tony, let me pull back the microscope, right? And the movie Plutocracy. I think it might be both of our favorite documentary ever made, right? I think it's the most important documentary ever made. Personally, I'm a documentary fiend, and this is number one on my fucking list of 1,500 documentaries that I have on my YouTube channel. And why is because it breaks down how the 1% has been pitting the poor against each other for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years, right? And what happens if, divide and conquer? It's the oldest trick in the book, right? So you pit your enemies against each other. Now you have half of an enemy to fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the oldest trick in the book. It's the go-to for the CIA and the FBI. And through the Freedom of Information Act, we have learned so much about the CIA and FBI. And if you haven't learned that yourself, feel free to tune into previous episodes of my podcast. I did a whole episode on the FBI's COINTELPRO program, which is the counterintelligence program of the FBI, where they investigated every single left-leaning person. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you're aware, Tony, but that is where Ronald Reagan got his start. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
check this out. This is deep. Ronald Reagan was a rat for the right. So he ratted out it was McCarthyism, right? McCarthyism shit, same era. The tail end of the McCarthyism shit, right? So the FBI was asking Reagan to rat out anybody in Hollywood that he thought was left leaning. And he went all in. He went full tilt boogie with them. He was all in. So all of a sudden, this total B actor, like commercial actor, and like he'd never been a lead. He was in B movies. Never made a fucking. He was never a Clark Gable or anything like that, right? All of a sudden, he's president. I'm like, what? Right? So I think, and once again, this is my gut. This is not fact, but it's my gut that his appointment to the governor of California was payback for his doing work with the FBI.
He wasn't elected governor? He was appointed?
Well, no, he was elected. But
Okay.
I'm saying he was appointed because he was put in the position to be able to be elected, right? Who the fuck was he 5 years prior, right? He was nobody.
Well, he was a pretty famous guy, Dave, and he was the host of General Electric Theater. I think he was the president of the Screen Actors Guild, which is fairly political, certainly politically connected. And of course, like if you're saying, Dave, if you're doing things that powerful parties like, then that's when you're going to get financial backing to run for higher office. That's how a lot of it works.
And and so you may be correct. What I heard is that he gained such public attention that he was then given the microphone, right?
Yeah. You get a high profile, Dave. You're on TV, you're in movies, people know you, people trust you. That helps. That's all,
And you and I have both said we have a price, right?
Most of us do.
So I'm sure Ronald Reagan had a price, right? Like if somebody came up, Tony, I'm just going to say it right now. I consider myself to be a freedom fighter. But if somebody came up and offered me $10 million to just go like full on right wing and just flip my shit, I would probably do it, bro. Because I'm struggling.
It's hard not to, Dave. And that's why you're just making the point why it's important to get big money out of politics, because that's the corruptor.
Right. Because money is the corruptor.
Yeah.
And if we don't have people doing things because it's their core value, then we have nothing, right?
We'll certainly lose our way. I mean, it's that whole thing, Dave, of why you have to tax rich people more. And then people will say, oh, well, if you think like that and you're somebody of means, then just give your money to the government. Well, that's making the point for them. That's making their point for them, because that's exactly what's not going to happen. Nobody's going to do that voluntarily. That's just not what most people do.
Well, and not only that, but you brought up a bigger argument, right? Which is, well, let's just let the market sort itself out. Well, it won't. The market always goes for fucking ultimate greed, ultimate profit. Fuck you. Right?
And it's also based on the rules made by the people who want the rules in their own favor. I mean,
and let me just specify, Tony, the rule. Okay, so the law that a corporation operates under is fiduciary. And so I had to learn this when I became a realtor, right? So if I am your realtor, Tony, I have what's called a fiduciary responsibility to you, meaning I have to look at your bottom line as the number one. Whatever I do, I have to think about you and your income first before mine, right?
Right.
Now that does
You
not
have to have
exist in
my best
politics.
interest. You have to have my best interests in mind for whatever you do.
Thank you. But I can't be selling you a house because it's going to benefit me. But now in politics, that rule does not exist, Tony. Why? What the fuck? That's insanity. Right?
It is.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
No. I'm just saying, like, are you kidding me that this law does not exist? It exists in one regard, but in real estate, where it's your most valuable possession, your biggest investment in your lifetime? Are you kidding me? We're not going to protect people in the same regard there? No, we're not. No, we're not. And Tony, you know, I am a licensed real estate agent. So how
Mm-hmm.
did I learn this? Studying real estate. It's a mind blow, right?
It really is. How we've let this.
I want to hear what you said. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, how we've let this go for so long and not had, a problem with it. And here now we have some legislation that says, okay, let's get rid of some of this dark money. And it just isn't front and center for a lot of things. It's out there, and I'm glad the Democrats have put it out there. But I think they should hammer on this stuff much, much more. I think they should hammer on those type of issues, Dave, the way the Republicans hammered on Benghazi or Hillary's emails or, Monica Lewinsky or anything like that. The
Right.
Dr. Seuss, the
Well,
Dr.
a
Seuss and Mr.
fucking
Potato Head
can we
issues
can,
that we have.
can we talk about Monica Lewinsky for just a minute? Tony, that was a blowjob.
Yeah, to me, no pun intended here, but it was really overblown.
Thank you.
Ooh,
And
now, that was a bit of a zinger.
and nobody's talking to Bill Clinton here, but I'm going with you on that, and I'm trying to get a punchline. Nobody's going with you on that, but who knows? Nobody asked Bill Clinton. It might not even have been a good blowjob.
Well, it was just, and then you go from Clinton and that situation, and people are so up in arms, and he did lie about it, so that doesn't look good when you lie to Congress. He should be admonished for that, and he was. But then you fast forward to Trump, and now it's like, he slept with porn stars, used campaign funds to pay her off to keep her quiet, and now nobody has a problem with that. And to tell you the truth, Dave, I'm kind of glad they don't have a problem with it. I hate to see that,
Whoa.
um, the
What you
hypocrisy
do
of it all,
after
but
hours, Tony? What
yeah,
you
I
do
don't care.
after hours is you, right?
I don't care exactly, Dave. It doesn't bother me, one bit. It's
Now,
like,
the scandal with Bill Clinton came into the fact that he was marinating a cigar in Monica Lewinsky's pussy during work hours. He was on the clock and he had his shit marinating inside her. Right?
that is so funny.
And I mean, granted, that had to be the best tasting cigar in history, right? Come on.
Well, you hope,
Well, you hope. I mean, you would think.
or the worst. Could be either way.
Well, it could go either way. Thank you. Oh shit.
But
And I
anyway,
don't even want to
I,
go
I
there
just got a
because
couple minutes left here. I got to me and Marlene have to make a food run. So go ahead and start to wrap it up.
let's well, we don't have any messages, so give me your closing statement.
Well, I really wanted to talk about, the January 6th situation, Dave, and the fact that so many of us are just not dealing in reality anymore, Dave. how we can see something happen. We can hear testimony about it. We can have people convicted in these situations in court, and yet we're still seeing people and hearing people say, yeah, nothing to see here. Not really a problem. What you just saw isn't really true. And I mean, Dave, you and I can argue about something that the FBI did or didn't do, or
Fake
Fauci's emails
news.
meant this or meant that, and whatever. But when you
Fake
see
news.
Capitol Police
Fake
being attacked
news.
by rioters, and then people are telling me that no, it was just like a tourist trip.
Fake news. Fake
That's
news.
pretty
Fake
scary.
news.
Ready to go? Anyway, Dip, I have to depart. To all of our listeners, I want to say thanks for listening, and David, I will be talking to you at a later date.
Tony, I love you, my friend. Thank you so much. I had a wonderful time talking with you, and thank you to everybody for listening. Good night. Oh, it's a good doggy. Oh,
All right, thanks for tuning into another episode and another thing with Dave. Please follow, subscribe, and share. I'm on all social media and another thing with Dave. And keep seeking the truth.